What's up, guys? It's your girl Samar. Let's get in the van, guys. We on our way to Truthville. Shout out to Mimi. Mimi said, "I like that Truthville, huh?" Yes, we're headed to Truthville, man. We're looking for love and liberation, man. In the van, we don't put nothing in your hand. All right? In this van, we connect with whose image we made it. Okay? There are no middlemen over here. I took a while to get back to you guys. I'm sorry for that. Made a few unexpected trips to the land, and that's about almost a good 2 hour ride from where I'm at in the city. So it's always physically taxing. Samar got a job. I told you that. Actually, Samar be having like two, three jobs. The garden is a job on its own. Um, but I find time around that, and there ain't no complaint. Okay, not at all. I really love working. Okay, I like having a routine. I mean, I lost my son a few years ago, guys, so it helps me to not dwell too much on some of the life's pains. You know what I mean? So I find work to be healthy. I don't do what I used to do before because I can't right now. I'm not in the profession of helping anybody right now. Y'all see my anger when I was up on that hill? I look like I can help anybody right now? No, no. When I get the land developed, though, we will work with at-risk youth, guys. That's the plan, and something else that's near and dear to my heart: teenage moms. Okay, guys, that's what I'm going to be doing on the land, and make. I want y'all to get an understanding here that when I talk about the land or plans for the land or you know career wise or whatever like that, I'm not reaching out for donations. I want y'all to be clear. Everything I've gotten in life, I've worked hard for. And mama don't never leave me hanging. Okay? You can believe that. So Samar's not seeking donations. Okay? Samar is just telling you guys that um, that's a future plan in honor of my son. Okay? I just bring y'all in to, get y'all to understand what we be doing over here. Okay? I still want to help people, but I want to redirect my help to who I feel needs it the most, and that's the at-risk youth, guys. So I'll put my degree back to use when I'm ready to do that. It's a lot of us putting that degree on the shelf for a little while and just doing something regular. You know what I'm saying? Because it's too much. Listen, it's just a lot of red tape when you go into these people's offices. So shout out to you if you got to do that every week, man. You know, I'll be hoping you can get through that. Okay, and hang in there because I personally tend to think that this can't sustain itself for too much longer, right? Okay, guys. So shout out to, is it Rex Green? You said something very profound in the comment section, and I want people to understand, right, that we are at a, here we go. I think you were in this one. Let's pause it. Hold on. I like what you said. This puts the Bible, Raxa Green. Shout out to you. Thank you for this comment. This puts the Bible into a totally new perspective. Right? And I agree with you, man. Big time, big time. Okay? It does put the Bible in a totally new perspective. It does seem like the men are just, you know, uh, high fiving each other. Great game. Okay, it's a book with shout outs to each other, if you ask me. And I say to myself, where are the books? So if Deborah was kicking ass, where's that book? If Huldah was kicking ass, where's that book? They burnt them, guys. They burnt them. But listen, this week, I don't want to get too sidetracked and keep y'all here for too long, because that's not what I really do over here. I try to keep it short and sweet, get to the point, and bring the content. Let the content speak to you. It's always my hope that you'll do your own research. Come back and tell me what you find it. All right? Because nations got together, consulted, and did this to us. So I think it's going to take a collective of us to get us out of here, to liberate us. All right? I'm doing the best I can over here. And I'm fighting like hell against all of the rhetoric. Okay? Believe that. All right, so let's get to something that I have had on my mind. Since we found out that Adam, right? First Adam right here, the one that was with Eve, right, in the garden. When we saw multiple sources say Adam is a prophet of Allah, we had already found this ourselves, right? When we looked at Adam's pedigree, right? We had already seen this ourselves. So I only brought those other contents in to kind of like reaffirm what we knew right from the start, that Adam had some questionable titles right here. We had been questioning this right from the start when we linked that Y chromosome death to first man Adam. This one right here, okay? We realized that what was said in the garden links Adam to the Y chromosome death, okay? And that's the trail we had been on for a while, as far as it pertained to Adam. But being able to link Adam to this religion that seems extremely misogynistic, guys, it blows the lid off of why the women are treated so badly there. Adam is very aware of what he's facing, right? That his Y chromosome is dying. Adam is kicked out of the garden. Adam leaves alone. You think he ain't mad? Wouldn't you be? Unless you possess a certain amount of damn good accountability, right? You're going to be mad too. So Adam naturally is going to be misogynistic, right? Because he's out there by himself and he can't understand why. If she told me that I could eat of it, why, right? And I'm questioning, guys, this fruit now. Now that we know these men wrote this book, we're going to go on a journey today, right? Because we've already touched this before, guys. So this is going to be a part 2. I didn't even know that this could be brought back into our Game of Thrones series, guys. But it can be. Given the fact of what we read last week concerning Muhammad, right? So let's get into it. So we see right here, Adam is the prophet of Allah. I showed you in multiple sources last week, especially as it pertains to the Quran. They call the Torah the Torah in the Quran. They know what time it is. They're speaking of the, quote, forefathers of Israel in the Quran itself as well. Okay? Adam is spoken of as the first prophet there. Yet they will say that the commandments of Allah came and were given from the angel Gabriel to Muhammad, right? So there's a bunch of messiness there too. Right? That's why I say this book can't be this old, guys. This book is not this old. I've already done episodes where I've shown you the overlap, right? That little Uzi one, right, guys? Where we're watching the Uzi be described in the book. And I show you that the same person with the same name who made this weapon in this book is the modern person with the same name. And there's no coincidences. All right, so get caught up on some of the old episodes, guys. Lots to unpack there, especially as it pertains to Our belief system here that the Civil War was none other than the split between the Israels, the northern and southern kingdom of Israel is the same, one and the same. Hebron means confederacy. All right, guys, so get caught up. All right, so I'm not going to keep beating y'all over the head with this. We know Adam is the first prophet of Allah. The first is right over here, guys, in case. Oh, he's the first man in the Syrio-Biblio tradition, right? Oh, they don't have a first there. But trust me, they've already said it in the Quran. He's the first prophet, right? First patriarch of Genesis. So it's all going together. He's the first, the first, the first. All right? Right there. He's the first patriarch, right? For the patriarchy. All right, let's get out of this. And let me go back here because I want to get into what we saw Muhammad do last week. Because this right here, to me, is interesting timing that we would wind up right here. Why do I say it's interesting timing? Because this must have been very political back then, huh? And we're dealing with a similar thing right now politically, right? Where they're talking about these files, right? Supposedly some files with some names of some folks who were supposedly or allegedly engaged in some unsavory acts, right? Illicit acts with minors, right? Now, here's the thing. What I will say is Muhammad gets into some really unsavory acts when you consider the age of his bride. I question her father. For real. I question her father. Where were her brothers at? Because who wasn't going for this? Absalom. Absalom was not going for this when this mess happened to his sister. Oh no, he killed everybody, didn't he? Yeah, he did. Absalom wasn't playing that. Okay, so where is that attitude when it pertained to this little girl, man? I'm looking around for my lighter, guys, so if you hear me moving around, I'm trying to light this. Samar be brewing and baking, guys, and it was right in front of me, guys. Right in front of me. All right, so let's get into what Muhammad did. I like this article because it gives you another example, and it's short and sweet. So let's get into it. Muhammad, from his birth to his death. So in this book, we're in chapter 3 of this book. So you should, read up more on that book. If you want to find out what other things this man was engaged in. All right. Aisha, daughter of Abu Bakr, was a beautiful little girl. Can you believe? They were, you know what? They were able to tell you that at 6 years old, she was a beautiful little girl. I told you, sometimes the men view us as dolls. I've showed you guys in the past, No More Dress Up, Daughter Zion, that most of what we wear as women was designed by men, especially the seductive things. The mini skirt, the teddy, high heels, fake lashes, fingernails. I haven't researched the wig, but I wouldn't be surprised. The bikini was made and named the bikini after Bikini Atoll, after they dropped the bomb on Bikini Atoll on King David over there, right? Why would you even name something that? After somebody's misery. But this is what they like to do. Okay, so we shouldn't be surprised. The bikini is named after Bikini Atoll, a place they dropped a bomb on. Okay, the Marshall Islands. You guys should research that. It was a dude there named King David on that island, right? Let's read along. So they are saying that she was a beautiful little girl. Muhammad married her when he was 53 years old. And she was only 6 years old. He did this with her when she was 9 years old. He could have been her grandfather. Says this is a gross case of abuse by the prophet. You don't say. But this is who they honor to this day, right? So any time you want to fix your lips to call on uh, uh, the Most High God, this is who you're calling on. Okay? This is who you're giving reverence to. A man who married a 6-year-old. It's looking like this is what came with this, guys. And we're going to show you. I'm going to show you right here on this front line today that this is what they're getting right here. Child brides. We're going to prove the point today. So fair use for the purposes of education and criticism. Right, guys? Let's keep going. When Muhammad married Aisha, he set an example for the Muslims. You know, I question if Muhammad was even the first, guys. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Behind the scenes, guys, I felt the need to consult with a few wise women. Okay, and we're asking some pretty good questions over here. When it's time to bring them, we will. Shout out to Mama Yolanda. Shout out to Unifierce. Shout out to Mimi. I call that my council of wise women, guys. We're digging. We're going to get these answers. So far, we can prove Muhammad had one, though. Huh? We've already proved somebody else in this front line. We're going to go back to him today. And we got a third person to bring to this table. Okay? So if you're waiting on this mofo, you are really out of order. Okay? Not to mention, we already proved this mofo shouldn't even be at the table. So y'all won't be surprised when we get there. Let's push forward with Muhammad. All right? So Muhammad set a precedence. Okay? He set a worldwide precedence pretty much when he did this, right? Because it's not just in those, in the Middle East. You see child brides in various nations. You understand what I'm saying? African nations, you'll see this. We've seen this locally because, see, here's the thing. What a lot of people are failing to realize, marriage is not that piece of paper that they give you, right? We've already covered here on the front line that marriage is actually, it happens at a cellular level when the gay meats meet, right, guys? Remember, we talked about that. So go back into some of the older episodes, guys, especially anything dealing with the science, right? We talked about it's only then do two flesh become one, right? It's through conception, right? So that, at least that's what, to me, would in fact, what's the word I want to say? Validate the marriage, right? Okay, so we see teenage pregnancy right now. I was a teenage mom. So I was, in fact, a child bride. Okay? So let's keep going. So we see this worldwide, right? When Muhammad married Aisha, he set an example for Muslims. To this day, older Muslim men marry much younger girls, following Muhammad's example. The Egyptian weekly magazine, Al-Mzwara, printed a letter sent to Amina al-Said, one of its editors, from a woman who was a teacher of languages in Egypt. The letter appeared in the September 6, 1991 issue. Here's a part of that letter. Dear Mother Amina al-Said, my problem is, my husband came home with a friend who is about his age. He requested that our daughter, who is 9 years old, bring tea to his friend. At night, he told me with a great joy that his friend agreed to marry Marwa. His friend is 50 years old. Marwa is 9 years old. When I objected, he told me that he's following in the prophet's example. Here are your prophets, guys. Here's your shout out to the Most High, right? These are his prophets, Allah's prophets, right here. Muhammad's one of them. He's following Muhammad's example when he engaged Aisha when she was 6 years old and had sex with her when she was 9 years old, as is written in the Sahih al-Bukhari. Must be one of their books. Muhammad Sobi al-Bantabi, a high-ranking police officer, sent a letter to the same editor, which was printed in the magazine in the December 20th, 1991 issue. Here's a part of that letter. The chief of a tribe invited me to attend his wedding. See, here's the problem right here. This is when we started getting into these problems, guys. When we find you at the wheel. And I ain't trying to be funny. But if you got time, go ahead and dig on that. You ain't going to see Sarah got to call Abraham. Nope. You're going to see Abraham told to call Sarah. Sarah was the chief. Saracen. You better get your facts together. You can't be a Saracen and be giving homage to Abraham. It wasn't connected to Abraham. It was connected to your mama. Saracen. Yeah, so this is what's going on. So the chief of a tribe invited me to attend his wedding. He was 84 years old and his bride 14 years old. So this mofo could have been her great-grandfather. Why do you marry a girl who is much, much younger than you? I asked. Because my other 3 wives became old. And when the woman gets old, she'll be like a rusty car. Said who? We outlive you guys. Says who? You see this rusty old man talking about? Oh my God, there is like no respect for us women, I promise you. Not from mama's sons. If you're listening, I know you're mama's sons. I'm talking about the ones that outnumber you. He says, I mean a car covered by rust, he answered. The young bride's father was very happy because of that marriage. You think he got some money probably? Yeah, he got something, some sort of dowry. Ain't that what they call it? Look at this disgusting stuff. This precedence that their prophet set, that every time you slap, write this name, put it on clothes, whatever you do with this name, man, you utter it out your mouth, you're giving reverence to this type of stuff right here. And I want to cover this. We got to get into this because this was outrageous. So not only, hold on, I need the list. Not only did he set a precedence, right, for Muslims, it looks like he set a precedence in the royal homes. Because look at this. This is in East and South Asia. They're going to cover all the continents. You see, you're going to get Europe, Middle East, North, South America. All right, don't worry. These are emperors listed, guys. And it don't look like no one-off. Do it. And you can clearly see the ages. All right? There's an Akbar. So doesn't that sound Arabic to you? Does to me. Age 3. He was 7. Right here. Look. Now, some of these in the Asian kingdoms, I'm seeing that they were kind of close in age. This one wasn't. This 13-year-old to the 16-year-old. So, look, this 13-year-old to this 29-year-old, 30-year-old. You see, so it's going up and up. All right? A 14-year-old to a 35-year-old. You can see their ages right here. This one, they were close in age, so no harm, no foul there, right? But you have to get into the ages of some of these emperors in comparison to who they're marrying. And you have to ask yourself, why are they doing this? Look, age 9. That still wasn't as bad as Muhammad, right? But this person is still almost 30. Who could see a 9-year old and say that's a beautiful little girl that I'm going to marry, okay, when I could be her grandfather? You understand what I'm saying? These men, this is what they were doing. Look, this 10-year-old married to this mathematician, they're not even listing his age. It must have been bad. Must have been bad. Let's keep going, though, because the further we go into this list is the worse it's going to get. All right, so we go to Europe, right? Who came out of Europe, guys? Look, they're not going to list Charlemagne's age. They're not listing these men's age right here, right? Oh, my God, a 12-year-old, and this guy was 61 years old. About 61. Okay? This is what was going on. This is the floodgates of what Adam's religion allows. Child brides. This is how much he hates the woman. These girls have no future. Look, would you want your daughter, age 15, marrying a 61-year-old? Do you understand what I'm saying? A 15-year-old marrying a 42-year-old. Your friend. Because if she's 15, you'd be about 42. Okay? Take your time to go to this list and go through these marriages. A 9-year-old married a 30-year-old right here. This is what was going on. These are the freedoms they were giving themselves. And I'm trying to tell you, these are royal houses. Pay attention. The Duke, all right? Henry the Lion, Eleanor of England, Margaret of France was given away. Okay, you got to pay attention. These are royal houses. All right? Look. Agnes of France was betrothed at age 8. We're right here. And is reported to have been 9 years old when she married Alexio II at age 10 in 1180. She was widowed in 1183 at the age of 12. Okay? So her first husband was close to her age. It was a year gap, but by the time, so 3 years later, she becomes a widow. Okay? However, at age 12, she has to marry this guy named Andronicus Comnenus, who is age 65. Left her a widow 2 years later, thankfully. Could you imagine that at the age of 14, this girl is a widow twice? Okay? First a widow at the age of 12. Then a widow at the age of 14 from somebody who could have been her great-grandfather. Or at least probably her grandfather. Maybe I'm going too far with the great. I haven't done the math yet, but definitely a grandfather. Okay? This is what was going on in these royal houses. Let's keep going. So we're in what? England right now? Yeah, we're in England. 9-year-olds, 12-year-olds. This is an exhaustive list, guys. This is an exhaustive list of a bunch of grown men marrying a bunch of babies. Okay? Not everybody, but mostly. I would say 90% of this list is going to be adults. A 42-year-old right here. Look, marrying an 11-year-old. This is what the royal houses were doing. Okay? You go through this list. We don't have all day, but I'm going to scroll through so you can see that this ain't no one-off. And they're still doing it, aren't they? Here's a list. Here's a list for you. That list is going to look pretty much like this list. Okay? The same people. What? Has something changed? No. No, ain't nothing changed except the public attitude about it. I guess back then, maybe people didn't have the power they have. Like, where enough of us would get together, we got the internet, we could see what's going on. A 37-year-old Holy Roman Emperor, right, was married to a 14-year-old, okay? Betrothed to him at age 11, okay? Right here. This is this is what was going on, okay? These are the royal houses, the dukes, okay? Look, there goes that House of Bavaria. Are we surprised to see Bavaria? No. Are we surprised to see Burgundy? No. And look, the brothers, the dukes, right? Giving her away. Giving her away. What do they do in Islam? She can only talk to the brother, right? The father, or her husband. Everybody else is haram. Forbidden. Anne of Gloucester, age 7 years old, right here. Right there. Married to Thomas Stafford, age 22. Can you believe this nonsense, guys? Look at this. Go ahead, take a long look at this and go ahead and get sick. This is what they were doing. This is what the royal houses were doing. Let's get to another nation. Let's see what else is going on. Let's go down here further. Let's get to the Americas. I'm interested to get to the Americas. This is exhaustive. Okay? Europe, you got a problem. Everybody got a problem. But Europe, your list is very exhaustive. I haven't gotten through this yet. I'm trying to get to the Americas, guys. Let's go. We already know what's going down in the Middle East. But I want to get to the Americas. George Washington, age 25, was married to a 15-year-old. So we started off with this stuff. Look at this. Arthur Dobbs, 73 years old, was married to a 15-year-old. Right? Here's the nation's history right here. Look, big old jump, huh? Big old jump. 19th century, huh? Brigham Young is in here. Look, Joseph Smith married all of these little girls here. Look at this list. Brigham Young had a list too. Here he goes. There goes Brigham Young. Look at this exhaustive list of little girls. That's when they have to kick in the door to those compounds and rescue these poor little girls. Some of them you wouldn't even have data on because the little girls are having babies and nobody knows who all's there. See also, teenage marriage, list of child bridegrooms. What kind of mess is this? Listen, guys, it gets deep, though. You saw that long list, right? And you see that this is happening in the royal families, right? Do you think anybody is immune to this? Huh? I'm going to bring in your favorite king. Let's get down to it. Before we get to that one, we got to get to this one. Wednesday's people bless. Gisela and Saint Stephen of Hungary. Got to bring in old Saint Stephen, don't we? Stephen the Moor. And what does he have behind his head? Stephen the Moor. Stephen the Martyr. Stephen the First of Hungary is Stephen the Moor. Right? All of those titles. What's behind his head, y'all? The sun, ain't it? What's behind his head? The sun, huh? I got more pictures, but anyway, let's get to the article first. Gisela, born about, now remember I told you they're lying about this timeline, right, guys? Because we already did a search on Gisela's clothing that she's wearing, right? And it told us what century that clothing is in. So they removing ones, they doing all kinds of stuff with their timeline. So don't pay this time no mind, okay? Gisela's born around whatever they're gonna say in Germany, right? She's made a saint, given a feast day, right, in May and February. She's the wife, mother, queen, Stephen is born around this time. He's canonized, right? He gets a feast day, right? Right here in August. All right, so let's go down to the story. Darn it, y'all know I'll be pressing stuff. I don't like how they start this article. I think they poke fun at it, and I really don't think this is funny, but they do this in poor taste, so let's just go. They were a power couple from an early age. Gisela and Stephen were married as a part of a political alliance when she was only 11 or so. Nah, y'all, because I think we read that she was what? Thought we read she was 10. Y'all have to go to the old article. But anyway, she was young. She hadn't even hit puberty yet, is the point. You can believe that. All right? It don't matter if she was 9 or 11. She hadn't even hit puberty. All right? And this mofo, after he took all of the riches from here and started that kingdom over there, and now every year they lift out his crunchy hand and march it all through their square, right? He's honored. But this is the type of stuff he was doing. This is the type of stuff all their kings was doing. You wait till we get to the last one. I'm having a good time with that last one. You can trust and believe that. Let's get through Stephen. We know Stephen was doing this. And we know she hadn't even hit puberty yet. The year after marrying Gisela, Stephen became, oh, wait. I want to go back up because it's going to bring in the brother, right? Because I told y'all that's the sign of, that's kind of like a sign of being engaged in Islamic principles, right? Watch, because it said she can only interact with the brother, her father, or her husband, right? So we're finding out that these people are engaged in Islamic worship, whether we noticed it or not. All right, so let's read on. It says they were a power couple, married as a political alliance. All right, let's get down to here. Gisela's brother later became the emperor, Henry II, recognized as a saint along with his wife, Cunigund. We got to research her. All right, but we know he came to the Americas. He was sent back east to where Stephen was from, right, guys? So we know he came to the Americas. All right, that's that Bavaria connection. The year after marrying Gisela, right, because Gisela's from Bavaria, Stephen became the ruler of Hungary, and together they spurred the adoption of Christianity in the country, organizing the diocese, founding the abbeys and monasteries, and so on. Stephen is the one, guys, that instituted the tithe. All right, he given total homage to Abraham, all right, because we saw Abraham be the first person to give a tithe to Allah. All right, if you had any question of who he was lifting his hands up, going ahead to Genesis 14 and 22 and hit the Most High, and you're going to see it's Allah. Abraham is giving a tithe to these kings in honor of Allah, all right? And good old St. Stephen institutes the 10th, right? They're going to say Christianity, but we see in these religions, right? Abraham is the father of all three, they say. These religions just overlap each other, guys. Religion. What are we religion, right? Re is to do something again. That's all I know. I haven't dug on that word as deep as I should, but it struck me today. Abraham is the father of all three, guys. All right. All right. And St. Stephen is instituting the 10th. They sent him the crown. Remember his crown, right? We're going to look at it later on. The span of his authority broadened as time went on. The couple also became known for their charitable works, their protection of Christians who desired to practice their faith. Only one of the couple's children, Emeric, survived to adulthood. All right, what does that name look like, guys? Get rid of that E at the beginning. Put an A. Put an A on the end of that. All right, we know Stephen came. He was pointing the way, right? I showed you that saguaro can only grow right here in Arizona. It's not a worldwide cactus. Those cactuses are here in Arizona. The tourists come here to see those. Every time you see a saguaro, that's the Sonora Desert. So we know where Stephen was at. All right. He was to become co-regent when he was in his late 20s. They never did. All right. It says here you can read up more about Gisela and Stephen. They got a biography. All right. The Hungarians do. Okay. He went over there and made that nation. And we proved that he was from the tribe of Judah based on his crunchy hand and that red string, didn't we, guys? All right, so let's go. Guys, get caught up. If you're new, go back and watch that Game of Thrones series with St. Stephen. That was a good one. All right, I want to get to, I brought in all of these child bride stories for a reason. Okay, we had Muhammad. We had an exhaustive list of every continent where the royal houses are doing this. We brought in Stephen, who sets off his nation of Hungary, the one he created with the riches he took from here, thanks to all of that oil. All right, all of that oil, all of those riches, guys. I showed you all of these wells are named after these tribes. He went over there and started that nation. But right from the start of it, he's engaged in this child bride shit too. Now watch this one that went over your fucking head. Because it went over mine until I had a memory of something. I'm going to read this one to y'all guys. And then I ain't going to keep you much longer. I just want to show you that a lot of these kings, and it go back way further than we thought, a lot of these kings were engaged in this child bride stuff. Watch this story right here. Nathan rebukes David. The Lord sent Nathan to David. When he came to him, he said, there were two men in a certain town, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb. That matters too, guys, but we won't get into that right now because you remember what Abraham left behind when he dug those wells, right? 7 ewe lambs. The poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb he bought, right? He bought that little ewe lamb. Okay, remember that. He raised it, and it grew up with him and his children. It shared his food, drank from his cup, even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. Now a traveler came to the rich man, but the rich man refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal for the traveler who'd come to him. Instead, he took the ewe lamb that belonged to the poor man and prepared it for the one who had come to him. David burned with anger against the man and said to Nathan, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this must die. He must pay for that lamb 4 times over because he did such a thing and had no pity. Then Nathan said to David, you are the man. This is what the Lord, God of Israel, says. I anointed you king over Israel. I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house to you and your master's wife. Now remember, they're saying the God of Israel. I don't know who this is or what's going on, but I'm just showing you the lingo here, all right? Your master's wives into your arms. I gave you all Israel and Judah, right? Because we know for a fact he didn't give no Israel to David. And it all this had been too little. I would have given you even more. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what's evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Now, therefore, the sword will never depart from your house because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. Right? Who was the wife of Uriah the Hittite? Bathsheba, guys, the daughter of the oath, right? A ewe lamb, right? Like Rachel, right? A daughter of the oath, the well of 7, right? This is why David wanted this specific lamb. All right? This little lamb that was bought, right? Remember, he's talking about Bathsheba. So we know, Nathan lets us know that the allegory is definitely about Bathsheba, right? Yes, thank you, Nathan, for this passage, because this right here hits home as to what Uriah had. Listen to it, guys. He raised it and it grew up with him and his children. It shared his food, drank from his cup, and even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. Y'all see that? See what David was fighting over? You see it, right? It's right there. It was like a daughter to him. It was raised with his children. He bought it. He bought Bathsheba. She was a child bride. And that went over our heads. It's been going on for a long time, guys. This thing right here got some deep roots. That's why it's the oak. This is one of the trees with some of the deepest roots. This goes way back. Right, guys? And you see some of our men, right, who we were looking up. I mean, a few episodes ago, I said I trusted Joshua. Oh, boy, I don't trust nobody. It's not pulling anything else right now, but it was the oak, right? A very strong tree with deep roots, these men. Right? And you know what they reinforce this type of stuff with? I was looking at Adam's name on that shirt, and it was giving me vibes that, like, yo, I wonder what his name means backwards, right? Check it out. In the modern Hebrew language, the word for science is Mada, Strong's number 4093. This word does appear in the Hebrew Bible, where it usually translated as knowledge, but once as science. Children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. Does that even sound right? Teach the learning. Children. Right? Daniel, right? We read that Daniel was tracing back to that Elah word, right? We saw Daniel tracing back to the Elah. Yeah, we did. All right, so no surprise there. No surprise. Strong trees. No surprise, guys. I want to show y'all some of these photos, and then I'm going to get us up and out of here. But once again, there's that sun in the background, right? These guys are obsessed with this sun, right? You're going to see Gisela, look, indoctrinated. You grab them up as a child and, remember I told you guys, don't worry about the timeline they're given, because we see Gisela dressed like this. So what did we do? We said, hey, Crystal, what century is this style of clothing? And go back to that episode, guys. You guys will remember. Look, here she is as a child. Look, this is a baby. This is deplorable, man. This is what these men are engaged in this worship for. So here goes Stephen, which we know Stephen and Corona means the same thing, right? And there is the sun, once again, behind his head, right? And that goes back to that Islamic worship, right? where they're praying towards the sun. So he's standing in front of it, and the sun. There's that crown we talked about, right? And you know the deities on his crown also have the sun behind their head. But here he is on a coin with the diadem around his head. See the sun. This is right there in Hungary. This is their money. They letting you know. Look at it. There goes that crown again. Stephen had that crown with that crooked cross that the Pope had given him. And they honor that. Good old Superman, Saint Stephen. Where's Waldo? They looking for kings and flying things. Look, he got the sun behind his head. He's letting you know. And there goes the patriarchal cross. All right? In case you think someone's making this up. And there goes Saint Stephen with the Superman. You see it? All of that's there. You got the patriarchal cross. We got the Superman. Look, he got on the Where's Waldo shirt for me. All right, that's St. Stephen. And look, right over here he is again, with the sun behind his head and the world in his hand. And he's holding on to that scepter, ain't he? That Keystone Pipeline. He's letting you know this is how we got our money. Okay? Samara ain't making this type of stuff up, guys. All right, there goes that saguaro. Didn't I tell y'all? Sonora Desert. Okay? Those only grow here. And what do we got here? Sun behind it. Right? Right? This is Stephen before he was Stephen. All right? Before he became this Stephen. He was this Stephen. Took all that money over there. He was this Stephen. Okay? But you're going to always see him with the sun behind his head. That's just what goes on. Okay? They look a little more melanated right there, so they look like they're telling a little bit of the truth. Alright, guys, but this child bride stuff goes way back. Gisela go. This goes way back. They've been marrying little girls in these royal families. And I question just how far it goes back. Much love, guys. Thanks for getting in the van. I'll see you guys next week.